All right, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing my review for this week's episode of The Walking Dead Season 9. This is for episode 12 now. It is called Guardians. Alright, man, and spoiler warning, if you guys have not seen this episode yet for The Walking Dead Season 9, oh, very cool episode. Don't want to ruin it for anybody, so definitely check it out, watch it through if you haven't seen it yet. Oh, man, so this was a packed episode. We got to see all kinds of cool stuff, specifically with getting to see at the end, like I said, spoilers, Daryl don the Whisperer mask and trick the Whispers and set off what no doubt will cause the Whisperer War. So this one was freaking sick. Him and Connie, man, just the two of them basically getting the herd to follow them. You know, when in Rome, donning the mask, which is kind of like a comic book moment, but they kind of brought it in really early compared to what we saw in the comics. But it worked out great. I thought it was really cool to see him, and I have done videos on this one before where we see Daryl wear the mask, where we see him become like a Whisperer. And this one we got to see him do it to where they put on the Whisperer mask in order to fight fire with fire and lead the walkers into them, which was really, really cool, man. Oh, I just love that scene. And there was a couple of pretty awesome Whisperer scenes in this one. So this episode we get to focus on two really cool spots. No hilltop this time, just the Whisperer camp with Henry and Connie and Daryl in pursuit. And, well, Henry being caught and then the other two in pursuit of them. And then Alexandria, which was really great because, you know, we've really this half of the season, a lot of it's been based at Hilltop. And I don't find Hilltop to be the most engaging environment to see. Personally, I prefer to see Alexandria over it just because of its history. And then also, of course, the Whisper Camp was so cool to see. So aside from that scene at the end of the episode, which was really awesome, really love that one a lot. Got to be the highlight of the episode. But also, we got to see Beta for the first time. So that was really cool. And the promo for this episode also looks awesome for episode 13, if you guys didn't catch that. We'll do that in the video predictions after this one. We'll give our thoughts on that one to get to see Daryl fight Beta. So it looks like that's going to be next week. That's going to be episode 12. And man, that one looks really, really cool too. I just, I'm so looking forward to getting to see that. Daryl's like asking me, Beta, is he their toughest? Is that what he asks? Is he their best, right? He's like, okay, we take him down first. And it's like, oh, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be awesome. You guys know, like, when you're watching this through, you guys ever think, oh, Trev's going to love this? It's like, yeah, absolutely. You know I will, absolutely. So that is sick. Also, we got to see some cool stuff at the camp, too, as we pretty much see a boyfriend and girlfriend, I suppose, or a couple of Whispers there challenge Alpha. So you have the man who challenges her, but then it's kind of like Beta gets involved right away and kind of takes him aside, right? And then it's sort of like Alpha kind of addresses that it's really not his challenge, it's really the girl that's forcing him to do this. And so as a result, pretty much they smoke him. And oh my God, just really, really brutal. Maybe one of the most brutal scenes of the entire series. I mean, really savage, especially with Alpha, which what I thought at first was like a rope or something, but clearly based on the how it went through the random Whisperer lady's neck. It must have been razor wire because there's no way you'd be able to force it through and kind of, it was pretty savage. It was pretty brutal, especially when she holds up her head and stuff and then all the others are seeing it and stuff. Oh man, that is just really some savage stuff. So we got to see from this one a little bit more about kind of the camp or the background for the Whispers. And we just got to see how savage they actually are. Like, this is a group of extremely savage people, and they do have more than what we thought that they did have, or they had more than what we got to see. I don't know if I can say after seeing their camp they have 100 Whispers, but I would say they definitely have over 50, I want to say. Probably more like maybe 60, 70, and now some of them have been killed off again because Daryl and Connie actually led the walkers into the group, and they didn't all have all their skins on to kind of to show that they were to camouflage themselves. So a lot of them got attacked, and a lot of them got killed by their own little walker group that they actually had there, which is probably just a small section. We'll have to see if they have more walkers elsewhere. Then we see Daryl, Connie, and Lydia and Henry escape. And at first, Daryl doesn't want Henry to bring her, right? So he's like, just no, leave her, not her too, just you. And Henry says no, he won't do it. So then they're like, oh shit, well we gotta go. So they get out of there pretty much as quickly as possible. But oh man, it was so exciting, and even the part leading up to it where basically Alpha's trying to find out if there's something going on between Lydia and Henry, and I'm not sure if she intended to 100% have Lydia kill Henry. Maybe she wouldn't have stopped her, but maybe she would have stopped her because it was sort of like a test, right? Kill him now, that kind of thing. And it certainly, was adrenaline pumping, because after what we saw earlier with the Whispers, deaths can happen pretty quickly at the Whisperer camp. It doesn't take that long. It can be like a couple minutes, and usually when you're watching stuff like this, or you like to think that things kind of build up to a point where something like that happens, where somebody does something like that, like there's a build-up point. But with the Whispers in the dirt, in the mud, there's not really a build-up. Sometimes she'll just be like, okay, kill this person, and she fully expects, her to do it, or maybe not, and then she knows she gets that information from that. But man, that was really cool, and the ending scene was well worth the watch through the episode. We'll go through scene by scene as we usually do. We start things off with the Whisperers kind of walking, and you have Lydia in there, and Alpha wants to know what she found out. Of course, later on she gets called out by some of the others as part of the Whisperers for going to get Lydia when they have to leave their babies, and they have to do that kind of thing at any given time, at any chance, whenever, and yet she's going to have Whispers be killed, and so they question her to go back and get Lydia, and she says, when Lydia asks her, she says, stupid question, is that the only reason? Because Lydia wants to know if her mother cares about her, so to get information on that. So this is a tricky one. Does Alpha actually care for Lydia? I'd say those are the motherly instinctive drives, so yes, she does, but because she's also clearly a psychopath, or at least somebody who would be, or sociopathic, I suppose you could say. I don't know if she necessarily enjoys, after she kills the couple people there, she says that she hadn't had to do that for a while, and it kind of feels like, she doesn't really seem like she really enjoyed doing it. So I guess we could classify her as a sociopath rather than a psycho. Negan's more of a psycho because he's smiling and joking and having fun while he's bashing people's brains in. So Alpha is sociopathic, but does she care at all for Lydia? Yeah, I think she does. It's got to be in there somewhere. Now, is it enough in terms of value to push her behavior into a certain direction to go get her when she didn't need to? She probably also wanted to get information from her too about these groups and to see whether or not these groups are a threat to them. And as we got to see, they actually are. I hadn't really thought they are, but Daryl's very crafty when the situation, when it comes down to it. He's got some really good ideas. You can even argue that his way of doing things might be better than Rick's was, right? Because in this one, that was pretty slick. Here you are, you have two of you, one of you is deaf, and you manage to, even though Connie's pretty tough, she can double slingshot and kills and stuff. It's pretty cool. But still, there's two of you, and the Whispers have over 50 or so, and Beta's in there, and Alpha's in there, everybody else, and somehow they manage to rescue and get Henry and Lydia out of there safely, and a whole bunch of Whispers probably being killed off in the process too. Maybe, I don't know, what we say, 5 or 10 or something like that. Enough of a distraction so they can get out of there when it's just the two of them. That's pretty impressive, right? That's pretty crafty to be able to do that. So definitely enjoyed the part at the end, but I do still think that Alpha does care for Lydia. but also she's also alpha. So it's a combination of the both, and which side would win is kind of a little bit difficult. I guess it depends on the situation, right? But you can see that she does care for Lydia as well too, in my estimation anyway. Although probably not that much. I don't. It's tricky. Okay, so we get the intro, and then after that we got Michonne. So we get a lot of cool scenes in Alexandria, which I personally enjoy them because it's just been so long since we've actually seen Alexandria, and we haven't gotten a really great sense of what Alexandria is like now. Of course, if you want to, think more about Rick and think more about Carl and the Grimes family and everything, getting to see Alexandria brings up a lot of these things for you, right? And we get some mentions of Rick and everything like that in this episode, which is really cool because it feels, when you're in Alexandria, even though it looks different, it's built up. A lot of there's like the windmill, and it's really built up and it's more established now than it ever was before. Lumber and everything, it looks nice. It still feels more like old school Walking Dead. Like when you see Alexandria, you see some of those characters, Michonne and Aaron and Gabriel and Negan and even Judith now too. It feels like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm watching The Walking Dead, right? So that's a good thing too. And you get to see kind of the way things work here. And Negan sort of calls her out on her own nonsense that she might not even realize she's doing it. And what it is that, and I love that too. It's really good because Negan is very, he's crafty too, and he's very smart. And so he notices that Michonne has a system set up where they have this council type of thing, right? And it reminds me of like season 4, like the governor, like, is Herschel on the council? How about Michonne? But they do. They have like this council thing, right, where they get to make decisions. And even though they have that, Michonne can just veto the whole thing and really put down her foot and say no, and that basically is how it goes. So we get the sense in this episode more than ever before that Michonne really is the lead for Alexandria. She's the number one, most powerful person in Alexandria. Gabriel's probably a close second, with Aaron around that same level, maybe third, and then Sadiq and some of the others are involved too in the decision making. But we get the sense that really Michonne is the one who's in charge, and it's sort of a Rick-tatorship after Rick, right? It's as Negan kind of points out though, that even though you have kind of these people and the whole thing, and it's not really the power to the people, right? It's not really, the people are not really in power, right? So it's like real life. It's like, do you get to vote on what decisions are made in your country? Probably not. You get to vote on who gets to make the decisions, I guess. But even one vote one way or another makes zero. It's approximately zero. Like, it won't change the outcome. You know what I mean? So it's like, how much power do you really have? Pretty much not, That's the truth of the matter. So I enjoyed all that stuff. That was all good. There's also a scene where she kind of catches Judith. Judith's like, oh no, mom caught me. And that look my kids get. It's like, I got caught, and she runs off, right? It's funny. So, so Michonne finds out in this episode that Judith has been talking to Negan, and she is not happy. She is furious. Of course, in the TV series, it's even worse because now Rick is supposedly dead or is gone. And they would assume him to be dead. I mean, how could you not? He didn't come back, and it's frickin' Rick, so you'd think he would be dead if he never came back, right? So Haver's fine on it and stuff, and so Michonne is irate. And we also get a sense in this episode too that Michonne has kind of become this very closed off, security minded, but very paranoid or strong to an overextent. Like she's become very closed off, or she's become very, in terms of the geographical locations of where they're able to go in security and this whole thing. She's really closed this whole thing off to the point where it's, she's pretty serious about security, and she's pretty hardcore about it, and also she's very strict. So she's become extremely strict after losing Rick and Carl and everything that happened before, and she's not messing around. She's not playing any games, but she comes back a little bit near the end of this episode by deciding that, let's give the fair a try anyway. If that's what people want to do, they can vote on it, they can decide, and if the people want to do that, that's what we'll do. And at the end of the episode, we basically see them doing that. So they're gonna go to the fair, they're gonna do what they're doing. Is Gabriel going? Gabriel might be going. So, death predictions for the next few episodes. watch out for Gabriel, because if he's going to be going to the fair, then, and the Whisperers are not going to be happy after what Daryl just did, because now the survivors have killed a whole bunch of Whisperers. They may kill over 10, maybe a dozen Whisperers in this whole thing just to get Henry and Lydia out of there. So crazy stuff, man. Really good stuff. But I enjoyed that. Also, some things about the conversations there. Man, it was really cool to see Aaron puts in his 2 cents in the discussion, which I thought was really cool. And God, man, does he ever look like Rick, right? When you see him, especially in this scene here, that's probably what they're setting up, because I'm positive Angela Kang responded in some interviews to people saying that Aaron is like a Rick 2.0. And in this episode here, especially seeing him in Alexandria with the missing hand, with the prosthetic, metal hand, that's like exactly like the comic Rick, right? So it's kind of cool the way this whole thing is sort of worked out. And it's going to be probably a slow transition, but if Michonne leaves in season 10 and she doesn't come back, having Ross Marquand there as Aaron, I personally think it fits. It almost fits too well. Maybe they had an idea that they were going to do that before the season even started, and that's why they had him lose his hand earlier. Because, God, man, does he not look exactly like him? And also, he's been in the series for a long time, so he's one of the OG survivors, because he came in season 5, if I'm not mistaken, second half season 5, so that's really cool. And, man, that's going to be great to see. At least we have some of these important older characters that are still there, that can still be there in the show, so that it doesn't feel so different that it doesn't feel like Walking Dead anymore. Because sometimes, man, it borders on, like, am I even watching? What am I watching? This can't be Walking Dead. And then you see Daryl, and you're like, oh, okay, that's sort of Walking Dead. But when I see the new Aaron, I think, like, oh, yeah, it is. It's definitely Walking Dead. And also very comic booky, because we never saw Rick lose a hand or that kind of stuff. So it's kind of cool. It's almost like he's sort of sharing the role of the comic Rick now and going forward with Andrew Lincoln, who's gone off to the movies and will be Rick in that capacity. But our TV Rick might be Aaron. So we'll see if that happens, or if it's kind of purposely misleading us and then they throw a swerve. We'll see. So I enjoyed all that stuff. That was all good. Some scenes with Eugene, which were funny. Eugene and Gabriel and the others. Ever expanding bread basket, right? So that's fun. The whole situation, I've never personally been in this situation myself, but that's definitely a tricky situation if any of you guys have been in. Like, if you're with somebody, you love them, but they're having someone else's I don't know. That's crazy stuff. I'm sure Rick would be able to tell us all about it, right? So that's a tricky situation. And then you've got Eugene there, who's sort of just it's like a love triangle, but then you have Eugene as well too, who's looking out for Rosita, I guess, or wants her to be happy or something. I don't know. It's a kind of a messy situation. I feel bad for Gabriel. I don't know. How to what to say about that one. You guys can leave your comments below. What do you think about Gabriel staying with her, and even though she's having Sadiq's baby. So let me know what you guys think. That's a little bit tricky for sure, right? And that'll be interesting to see as well, too. Would Rosita go to the fair if she's pregnant, or would she stay back? So we'll have to look for scenes of that in the next few episodes and see if she actually does leave. Because if she's in Alexandria and she's staying there, then she probably won't be killed off after all, and she will survive on further in the future. So maybe that's what they will do, which would be okay. But I don't look at the character necessarily the same way as I did a couple years ago or a year ago, after this whole thing has transpired with baby daddies and whatnot. Not, again, sensitive topic. Don't want to go into it too much, but you guys get it. It's kind of a messy situation, tricky situation, right? So so for the ladies, try to stay with one guy if you can. He's not too much of a loser, right? So it's cool. Okay, so going forward, we've got the stuff with Judith, the conversation with her and Michonne. So practice and spying, and then Michonne's really upset, which again made me feel like this is old school Walking Dead, right? She's been talking to Negan. The conversation between her and Negan, which I also thought was fun. And Judith sort of defends Negan to Michonne, like he's, he changed, that kind of thing. And then she says that Michonne changed, or you did. So she's a little shit disturber. She's a little troublemaker, and she's a bit disagreeable with Michonne. So it's kind of also a tricky situation for Michonne too. So good stuff. yeah, I mean, going on through, like I said, the stuff at the end, don't be weak, and the whispers. The Alpha comes across as like one of the most savage villains we've ever seen in the entire Walking Dead. Some brutal scenes in this one. Very scary villain. Somebody you definitely don't want to mess with. A whole bunch of heads are on the pikes around her and stuff where she's questioning, Lydia and Henry. And luckily, Daryl, because again, he's got to do it because he promised Carol he'd look after Henry. And so he does in this episode. He does what he needs to do in order to get Henry the hell out of there because that's his top priority. He doesn't have a whole lot of people left right now, it looks like to me, that really care about him or know him or are still alive. But Carol's certainly one of them, and so he's got to do what he's got to do to keep Henry safe. So all in all, I'm going to give this episode a 9.2 out of 10. I love the episode. It was awesome. The only thing I felt like was a little bit off was it had good pacing for the Whisper part where, they were showing their savagery and killing the two people that challenged them, or that challenged Alpha and Beta as well, too. He was involved, too. It's not like Alpha was by herself fighting that guy and stuff. Granted, she did have the shotgun and everything, so she'd probably win anyway. But the two of them 2-on-1. Wow, man. So savage stuff, but so I loved everything that happened with that and everything with Lydia and with Henry and all that stuff. The only thing was the final scene with Daryl, while it was a really cool reveal, it was, I don't know, I thought that it could have been focused a little bit more. They kind of went over it really fast and they just left it as this last minute thing, but I felt like that was your highlight for your episode, and it didn't get slowed down. The pacing was good for a lot of the other stuff, but they kind of went through the most exciting, the best part of the episode in just like a minute. And that was, for me, is why I can't say this one, like I'd give this one higher, maybe like 10 out of 10 or something. But I felt like, when you have those top moments that are like, your best moments, at least for me, I'd like to see those focus, slow down on, and focus on a little bit more. They did it, they did enough, but I felt like it was such a cool thing to see Daryl don the Whisper skin and reveal that it was him who was there. It was such an awesome part that, maybe it should have been extended a little bit, is what I'm saying here in the episode. And then maybe you take out a few minutes of the other stuff at Alexandria or the other stuff that's just really dialogue and stuff, and you kind of focus a little bit more on that, because that was an awesome moment. I mean, in the comics, when they put on the Whisper skins, that was an iconic thing that happened in the comics, and for it to just go by in a couple of minutes is like, it was awesome and everything, but I think maybe you should have focused on that a little bit more. Anyway, that's all I got to say for this episode, guys. Leave your comments below. I'll be back in about half an hour to an hour for my predictions for what I think is going to happen in episode 13. Leave your comments below. If you like the video, please thumb it up below. You can share, you can favorite, and if you're new and you want to subscribe, I would appreciate it. You can do it. Bottom left to subscribe, and I'll see you guys again soon for another video. As always, this is Trev, and I'm saying...